Hey guys, welcome to the Ella Opa Travel Podcast. I'm here with my co-hosts Ari and Foti. I'm gonna see what they have for me today. Guys, what's going on?
How are you, Melissa?
I am great. Right in the burn of the busy season before summer in Greece. So yeah,
Right before we got on, me and Foti and I were discussing. Springtime's coming. The weather is starting to open up. The itch for travel has come. Foti, what are your thoughts and
Well,
plans going into this?
it doesn't hurt the fact that we have all these apps on our phones that are alerting us, especially with your airlines, that, they're putting the bug early on with specials to fly over to Greece. So now, okay, we're like, okay, we got to book our tickets, but like, where do we really want to go?
what are you thinking about this summer? Because I know that you've gone to Santorini in the past. You love it. Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on that what are
Well,
you seeing out there, or how are you feeling about that?
So, well, that's a good question because I read a lot of news about Greece. I'm constantly getting like news feeds about Greece, and a lot of stuff is like the oversaturation and just overdone Santorini Mykonos, like these overdone things. It's been a while since I've been there, so like it hasn't hit me as much, but that's all I read about. I mean, what do you guys think? Is that something that's on your minds? Is that something that you think
oh,
about?
if I can add to what you're saying, Ari, is that we kind of like keep thinking about Santorini Mykonos because it's like, will we get the same experience elsewhere? I mean, because, we've established this familiarity with the islands. You get your favorite spots, but then sometimes you're like, all right, I've done this so many times, like what's next?
Exactly. But I mean, the Athens, Mykonos, Santorini itinerary has been, it's something that whirs in the back of my mind always and has been since the beginning, since I started my business. But like the thing is that I probably talk about it less than I have before because it's the problem, the over tourism, it's never going away. Like how long can you complain about flies on a horse's ass? Like honestly, like it's always going to be a problem. And I think that, first of all, I have to say, I do not hate these islands. I do hate their role in the manufactured mass tourism machine.
Mm.
That is that is my problem. But I mean, and I don't, the concept of over tourism is not lost on an educated traveler. Like they get that, they understand that. But I don't think it's necessarily really obvious why it's happening and why it keeps happening because you'll see stuff in the news like, oh, Venice has an entrance fee now. Oh, Santorini has limited the number of cruise ships now. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change. Do you want to know why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
All right, you got me. Okay, I will talk about it. When provoked, I absolutely will dig into this. So yeah, it doesn't take much to tick me off because I will hop into this immediately. But I think okay, so Athens, Mykonos, Santorini. Why we're seeing it everywhere, it's really layered. And I think that's why it's not so obvious to people because we have a few things at play here. We have the tourism industry itself. We have the traditional travel agencies. But then also like maybe what people aren't thinking about, and maybe the Greeks do, I suppose, but the average traveler, the average
Mm.
tourist is not thinking about the government having any role in this. And it's
Mm.
actually it's pretty large. But let's take it like one step at a time. So like, let's say that you're a traveler, one that's never been to Greece before, and you're like, I need help with this. Like, I don't quite understand. I've seen stuff on, Santorini and Mykonos. So, Susie tourist walks into a traditional travel agency and she's like, I want to go to Greece. And Arlene pulls up her 3-ring binder of brochures and she's like, oh, honey, I got you. Look at this, and it's this, mass tourism situation. It's Athens, Mykonos, Santorini. Maybe we throw a Crete in there, if they're lucky. But the thing is, the travel agent is not, doesn't have any control over that package deal. And that makes sense to you guys, right?
Hmm.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go through like the hierarchy, I guess. So we have Susie Tourist. We have Arlene, the travel agent. We have a travel agency. They pay to be a part of a host agency. The host agency is part of a consortia. The consortia has preferred suppliers. The preferred suppliers then have commission deals with hotels, tour providers, experiences, all that stuff. So that whole chain of command is run by money. It's run by commission. And so the only things that are making it back to Susie Tourist are the things that this whole downline makes commission on.
That's a very good point that I never really like
Mm.
fully thought of, which makes perfect sense because I know how things work, I know how things run, but like as a Greek who's just been going to Greece by default from like a child, I never really thought about that whole process. But it makes perfect sense, and not just for this, but beyond, like the industry. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's what am I trying to say? Um, it is, and it's not just limited to Greece, but we're not talking about that today.
Hmm.
And like if you think about it, think about where the most expensive hotels are in Greece. Let's just use hotels as our example. Where are they?
The most
Santorini?
expensive, Mykonos, Santorini,
Ding,
right?
ding, ding. You win.
Really, really
Yes,
expensive.
those are the most expensive hotels to stay at. And that's not an accident. This has been engineered. They're very expensive hotels. They're making a ton of money. They have money to pay to play the travel agency game.
Mm.
You have to have a lot of money to pay that commission for Arlene, the travel agent, to sell your hotel to Susie Tourist. And so the thing is that, okay, we have these really expensive hotels, right? Do you think that they're owned by Greeks?
Uh,
Probably not.
Probably not. Now that you mentioned this,
No, no, they're not. They're owned by offshore billionaires. Do offshore billionaires care about preserving the Greek culture?
Absolutely not.
not in this world.
Oh, zero. Zero. So you have these islands, Mykonos and Santorini. Again, I love these islands. They're beautiful. They have a ton of culture. The communities there, they're amazing. Okay, so we have these really expensive hotels that people are paying exorbitant amounts of money for, and they're not even getting a real Greek cultural experience. Like, as Greek men, you know what the Greek culture is and what it isn't. Susie Tourist does not. Arlene, the travel agent, does not, because what her experience is probably the same thing. Like maybe she's been to Greece, but it's been this experience. So Arlene, the travel agent, couldn't even tell Susie Tourist, like, hey, this is mass tourism. This is not Greece. This is, not the experience that's going to give you what you really want.
Mhm.
And like some of that is just ignorance, but some of it is like Arlene, the travel agent, is not going to offer something to Susie Tourist that she's not going to get paid on because Arlene wants her commission. So say that Arlene is incredibly educated on Greece and she says, okay, I know this local hotel. It's great. The owners are super duper. I want to book this. Well, her entire chain of command that goes through that hierarchy says, that's fine, but we're not going to pay you for that, Arlene. And that's how Arlene's making her living. That is how she makes money. She's like, oh, okay, well, on second thought, if I don't make any money on it, then I'll just tell Susie Tourist that this hotel is fine, this
Mhm.
package is fine, But also on that local hotel scale, like those are oftentimes owned by Greeks. They're locally owned, like they're preserving the culture. They're giving tourism, like what you want it to be. You want it to be wholesome. You want it to be, real, authentic, what people are looking for. Um, and they are too, quote unquote, small to play the traditional travel agency game. They cannot even get in there. But I'm going to move on to another piece of the puzzle. But before I do you guys have questions or thoughts about that?
Uh,
Well,
More so, just like it just shows how, the evolution of industry kind of starts to affect so many things from the biggest to the smallest and stuff I never really thought about. And it makes such you make very interesting points. And people who have never been or people who aren't familiar with Greek travel, great points you make. But even somebody familiar like myself, like now I'm thinking inner detail of like this whole process. It's like it's pretty interesting. It's pretty fascinating.
And I don't think it necessarily started in a malicious way, but it's
No, no.
definitely it's definitely gone that way,
It
and it's
evolved, yeah.
it's too far gone to back out of it at this point.
mhm.
They cannot dig out of it.
But Melissa, you are a very well-versed travel person, especially to Greece. So this is what we need. We need people to kind of like educate because if they're educated, the whole industry and the whole travel experience would be better. Or am I mistaken? I don't know. I mean, it seems like the more educated the traveler is, the better it would be for Greece as a destination and for them as a traveler and for you as an industry person, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean there's only so much that I can do. I'm just one person. And again, like I said, like this is a situation that's not gonna go away, unfortunately, because people that aren't educated or they don't care, like they just want to see it and go home, like they keep buying it. Like we're talking about cruise ships,
Mm.
your Costco brands. You Google Greece trip and it pops up, package deals, Athens, Mykonos, Santorini. Like it's not going away. But part of the problem is the Greek government themselves. Because for a few different reasons, and some municipalities are doing better at this than others. Obviously Mykonos and Santorini, grade F. But they keep selling land and approving building permits for these offshore billionaires. Like they are watering down the culture by allowing it to happen in the first place. But even so, like let's pretend hypothetically that Foti, you are a small business hotel owner and you're killing it. You're doing awesome. You're like, my hotel is rocking. Like, I want to be bigger. I want to be better. You are not incentivized by the Greek government to do that because if you're making more than 10,000 trackable euros, sorry, if you're making more than 10,000 trackable euros, your tax bracket immediately goes up from a 9% tax to a 22% tax.
Wow.
Wow.
And if you make over, I think it's like, and I'm not an economist, nobody comes to me for that. I'm just saying these are very broad terms
Hmm.
and they change, But if you're making more than, I think, 40,000 euros, something like that, then you're taxed at 40%. So like you can't even, if you grow, you are penalized. It's too bad. Like they almost make you stay small. And even
Hmm.
if you do grow, you need to find a way to turn that into the shadow economy. In the shadow economy is when you accept cash for payments. And I've seen hotels do that before. Like I've booked them,
Yeah.
they canceled the reservation and I reached out to them. I said, what's going on? Is everything okay? And they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's because they took cash on the side. Like they're trying to make a living. They're trying to live the best lives that they can, without being taxed up the ass.
Can I
Mhm.
make a confession? I've been
Is this about Greece or up the ass?
yeah. I actually have behaved in the manner where I've asked the cons or the receptionist or over the phone booking what their rate is, and then I'm like, well, what if I give you cash? What would it be? And 100% of the times I get a cash rate.
Yeah, I fully support that because, well, okay, I shouldn't say fully support because I do think that the Greeks need to pay their taxes. And I don't want to get political. I don't want to dive into that too deep. I think that they need to pay their taxes, but I think that they need to be taxed fairly to the
Yeah,
point where like they actually want to succeed. They actually want to make money. And so I understand
sure.
why they're accepting cash, why they're asking for cash. And I also do that. I do that for my travelers. When they say if they pay in cash for this boat trip, I'll do this rate. If they pay in credit card, it's this. And I was like, I totally get that. So like there's this kind of confliction between like I would like to see the country evolve, but I would rather see the individual thrive.
And the
Like
only way that gets fixed is through the government making the right decisions on how small businesses or smaller establishments can do their tax rates.
right. So like at this point, Foti, if you have your hotel and you're like, I want to get bigger, I want to get better, you almost have to partner with somebody who is outside of Greece, who has their banking, their taxes, their business filed in another country to grow. It's really messed up. And so again, you have this like never ending situation where you have offshore billionaires that are not paying taxes into Greece, most likely, like they have their business ventures elsewhere. The only people that are making money off of this mass tourism are the big boys. You got your cruise ship companies and these like mega hotel companies, the people that are paying to play. That's
That,
it. And the average, Susie tourist, she does not know that.
that's really interesting because again, I said it before, but like I never really thought about the inner details. And obviously, when you start to think about inner details of so many things, you start to be like, hey, wait a minute. But
Mhm.
as a whole, that it won't get better if this is the setup, if this is the way things run. It's not going to get better. And like I told you at the start of the podcast, my news feed is full of, Santorini Mykonos travel, and all of it is over tourism, trying to figure out how to you like do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. So it is a problem. It is a problem.
Foti, what are your thoughts?
It definitely changed my perspective. Because if you hadn't really gone into this really deeply and dived into like the behind the scenes of how this actually is engineered, it's disappointing to me because when we visit Greece, we're so proud and we're so excited to see these beautiful locations that we think are pristine, that have been affected by the modern world. There's no corruption. There's all these things that they're now formulating in my brain about how these places are being taken advantage of, and some of the locals who do the right thing and try to make a living is unfortunate that this is the case. It's leaving kind of want to go there and like help everybody out.
Hmm.
I know. It's the thing. It's like the people that are really trying, to do the right thing, it's such an uphill battle.
Right.
Like, and even like these smaller local hotels, they have to go on sites like Airbnb, booking.com, and like they're taking a big chunk from these small businesses as well. But again, it's one of those like you have to pay to play things, and it's really hard to go up against. And so like if I know somebody that owns a hotel in Greece, I'm just like, wow, like good for you. And you know, it's not like this everywhere, but you know, like when you look at these package deals that are like $5,000 for 6 nights, like what are you getting? Like it's not good.
Hmm.
It's not good.
So
So,
having
on let me ask you this. On that note, um, the what's been happening in Santorini lately with the thousands and thousands of micro quakes, is that affecting this summer's travel there? You as an industry person, have you seen anything affected?
I have had people ask me about it, but I don't, and I've heard of them. Sorry, let me start over. I have had people ask me about it, but nobody's canceling anything with me. And you know, because it's one to one, you know, it's them to me to Greece. Like they're not like having to go through a hotel or something like that and be like, what's going on in the hotel? Being like, it's fine. You know, it is
Mm,
actually fine. Like, there's nothing to worry about right now. I said, you know, they're evacuating for you know, precautions, but there's been no actual damage done. It's not anything to worry about, but I think that people are canceling. I've heard of them canceling their Santorini trips, and it's just like what else are you doing in your life led by fear, honestly?
Hmm.
Like it's so
mm.
it's
But
weird, like when
that was
somebody
also like a little while ago. It was like a month, maybe. I don't remember, but
it's
it was
been
a little
going
while ago,
on.
and I haven't heard much about it since.
No, because it's declining. The seismic activity is declining. It's not a threat, but it's like no, they did evacuate for precautionary reasons. There's no
Mhm.
reason to cancel a trip. But I mean, like at the end of the day, weather, catastrophic events, they're not predictable, you know, for the
Mm.
most part. Just like if you were going to go to Mexico and a hurricane comes, you know,
Yeah.
kind of the same thing.
It's
But I don't know.
worse.
It's just when people cancel their trips, it's like, well, let them. Like they seem kind of they seem kind of anxious.
Aren't
The
cancellation policies in Greece a little different, if I'm not mistaken, where you could book your stay at a hotel if it's not part of a package, I'm assuming. If you're doing directly just to the hotel, I've been subject to cancellations where you don't actually pay or your card doesn't get run until you get really close to the date of the booking.
Um,
I've had that happen several times in the last couple of years where
so what are you talking about? Like a week before, a day before?
yeah, so my my wife is really good at booking nice places, and then it says, you know, you have until this date till you get charged, and then right before we get charged, she might find another place and she'll swap over to a different hotel. Is that common practice, or is that just me being crazy?
that's just you being crazy.
That's what I was thinking.
No, I don't see that very
That's you
often.
contributing to the decline of the industry, Footy.
We
So,
have found the
I'm
problem,
Greek.
and he is in this room.
I'm Greek. I'm indecisive.
But you know, Melissa, the reason that I actually brought that up wasn't for any other purpose of if there is less tourism to Santorini this summer, I'm curious to see will it be a better experience for the people who are actually there because of like it maybe it won't be so overcrowded or maybe it won't be so packed and booked. That's my question because if Santorini for any reason has less travelers this year, maybe because of people fearing whatever, and then the people who go are like, wow, this is so much better because there's less people here. Maybe there could be like some sort of like industry trend that like is you know gearing people away from overbooking and from oversaturating like these well-known spots. I mean, I don't know. That's just a thought.
I think I think it's a really nice thought. I think it's a fantasy. Again, because you have cruise ships coming into port with, you know,
Mhm.
20,000 people, 30,000 people, 40,000 people, and they're not contributing to the community at all. They're
Right.
coming on the island, they're taking their pictures, they're leaving their trash, it's it's
Yeah.
ugly, and it's one of those things. It's the same thing. It's an uphill battle. Like, you have the individual travelers who are trying to, have this experience, and the individual travelers are not the problem. It's these mass tourism machine people that keep buying into it. And that is a very particular person, like anybody who has any kind of common sense and is a quote unquote good traveler. They don't want that. They don't want the over tourism. They don't want the cliches. They don't want the grease, like the clown version of, they don't want that. But there's too many people that don't understand the difference between Greece and Greece. You cannot fight it. You can only, divert your own plans, choose different locations. And I think that, there's a disconnect there because, you know, so many people just start believing what they're hearing. I have a marketing background. If you hear things enough times, you start to believe it. Like, well, why am I hearing so much
Lessons from
about,
our government right now.
oh God.
But I mean, these are extremely good points, and of course, an unseasoned traveler listen to what Melissa is saying, but even to the seasoned traveler, such as Foti and myself, you know, again, I never really thought about the inner workings, and these are really good points, and these are things you have to think about. But we're lucky to have somebody like you, Melissa, because you are in that daily grind of this, and you know what's going on, and that's the beauty of doing this podcast with you because we're gonna learn a lot. That's what I think. I
And
think we're
just
gonna learn a lot.
Well, thanks for being here to even have these conversations with me, because I didn't even have to bribe you to talk about what I like to talk about.
Foti and I are sponsored by a billionaire in some godforsaken land, but that's why we're here.
It's top secret, top secret. Yeah, and I mean, uh, that's the thing. Like, I think that uh, real people that want real travel, they know about over tourism. They just don't know how to get past it. It's like, okay, so I know what I'm not supposed to do, but what do I do? Like, I think that that's a bigger problem. Like, you'll see influencers be like, skip Mykonos and Santorini. I went to Paros. Like, bitch, that's the next Santorini and Mykonos.
Right, right,
Like, you're
right,
not solving the problem. Like
right.
Paros has had the highest construction growth for the past 5 years straight. Like, that is a next disaster waiting to happen. So like, when the locals fear about becoming, they're like, oh, don't tell people about Mani. Like, we don't want them to come here. I go, they're not going to. Like, the type of traveler that you don't want to come is not going to make the effort to go to Mani. Like, they don't even know how to get there. But like, they need to understand, like, the well-off individual educated traveler who appreciates culture, appreciates community. They just need to know how to execute it. And that's where I come in. That is my job. I was like, I want you to know what your options are. I want you to know that it's not as difficult as you think it is. I think you just need to know the difference between these places and what it means to go there. I don't think that you have to go to Santorini, because I've had clients come to me and say, I'm sorry, but I think I want to go to Santorini. And I was like, you
I'm
have to
sorry.
apologize to me. And I'm like, am I like that scary about it? I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, you feel like you have to apologize to me about going to Santorini. Like, no, like, I totally get it. I totally get it. Like, it's beautiful. Like, it is a unique geographical area. Get it. Mykonos, you have to try a little bit harder to convince me.
I have to ask you a final question. So, if somebody has their heart set on Santorini and Mykonos, and they go to you, my opinion after this podcast, this episode, is that you will you'll help them, but you'll help them in a way that actually benefits Greece, benefits the island, benefits the culture, benefits the smaller entity. Am I correct in that?
I can try. I can try. But it's that marketing message again. People think that they need the infinity pool with the view. And, like those are not mom and pop shops. At the end of the day, it's my job to make sure that my travelers know what to expect in
Mm,
Santorini and Mykonos. We're like, this is what it is, plain and clear. This is Instagram. This is reality. Now that you know the reality, is it still what you want?
mm,
And a
mm.
lot of times they say no. And the other people say sorry. Yes, I do.
Right.
But yeah, I can only try.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's keep up the good fight. That's what I have to say. But again, this is very interesting stuff because you opened up my mind to like a lot of stuff. Next time, I'm in that position, I'm going to think twice about how I do things. Obviously, I'm going to get on the phone with you first, and then I'm going to try to figure out some stuff because it's people have to take some responsibility and be educated and understand what they're getting into, which, a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, and it would make the whole experience better. Again, my
For
opinion, but
everybody.
yeah.
For
Definitely.
everybody. So, and that's, the point because it's so, so sad to see such a beautiful culture more or less kind of ripped apart by the tourism machine. It's really unfortunate. And, like people just want to live their lives. They want to live them well. It's an uphill battle for them. So,
Right.
and I'm referring
Well,
to the Greeks, not the travelers, which are
yeah.
fine.
Well, I mean,
Travelers, okay.
this is all great, great, great info, and I'm sure all the listeners are going to be, thinking about a lot of this stuff. And, if you are thinking about this stuff, contact Melissa. She will guide you.
And that's why you guys are my co-host because like I said, I didn't even have to pay you to say that. No, this was a great conversation, you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your input as Greeks yourself, Greek Americans. Yeah, you guys have a ton of experience, understand the difference between, an authentic experience and a manufactured one. And these are the kind of conversations that I can't have with everybody. It really does take everybody to be educated on the same level of sorts, to have like a base level of understanding of what's going on, to have these types of conversations. So I appreciate you guys being here, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation, whatever that may bring, whatever you guys come to the table with in your chats behind the scenes.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
we're looking forward to it. Can't
All
wait.
right.
All right,
Awesome.
guys. We'll see you next time.